right, so I will go ahead and kick it off here. We're joined by Cathy from the Small Business Administration. Just before I turn it over to Cathy, for those of you in the room, again, if you have any issues with Zoom, feel free to catch us on Facebook at Tri-City Regional Chamber. We're going to be live on there as well. And just to note a couple upcoming events, this coming Friday the 10th, we are going to have Dan Newhouse on here to give us an update as to what's going on at the federal level. He'll be available for questions that are submitted ahead of time. So reach out to me or email me your questions and we can get those submitted to Representative Newhouse. And that's going to be again Friday at 11 a.m. to noon. And the next Wednesday, the 15th, we will have STCU, who is also our program sponsor of this program, talking about some other financial resources that are going to be available. Everything's changing so quickly, so I'm sure we'll never run out of things to cover. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Cathy to talk about some financing options available and to take questions. Cathy is joining us from the Small Business Administration. She is a lender relations specialist. And Cathy, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Logan. I hope everyone can hear me just fine, but thank you very much for taking some time out of your day to get up to speed with what the Small Business Administration is doing to help our small business community during this time of the coronavirus pandemic. My name is Cathy Griffith. As Logan mentioned, I do work out of the Seattle District Office of the SBA. I am working from home currently, as are all my coworkers. We do have a telework order in effect for the federal government for everyone who's able to telework. Thanks to the Postal Service for still being out there. But I am a lender relations specialist, which means my primary duty with the government is to help lenders become familiar and able to offer our loan products to our small business borrowers. I've been with the Small Business Administration for almost a year and a half now. But prior to that, I managed a SBA department in a small community bank, and I've been an SBA lender for about 25 years now. Decided to change over to work for the government because I really enjoyed the products and I like to be able to get out and help more lenders offer them to the public. So I want to talk today about the two primary loan products that we have that are disaster driven to help the small business community. But before I go into the weeds on those two products, I would like to tell you that the SBA has always offered guaranteed loan products to small business owners through working with lenders to guarantee the loan products that the lenders offer to the small businesses. And our main products traditionally have been the 504, which offers fixed low interest rate financing for owner-occupied commercial real estate. And then the 7A, which offers financing for almost any need that a small business has. But let's not talk about those right now. Let's talk about our two coronavirus-driven products that we have available today. The first one is called a disaster loan. That's what is traditionally known as. The SBA doesn't loan directly to small businesses on a majority of our loan products. We rely upon lenders to offer those loan products to the community, and then the SBA in turn offers the lender a guarantee. But the disaster loan is the only loan product that we have where the SBA makes a direct loan to the borrower. And we have been doing these loans for years and years and years. Usually the disasters are tornado, hurricane, fire, some type of a physical weather event or a physical event that happens. And then FEMA, which is our Federal Emergency Management Agency, will partner with the SBA. Normally FEMA is the one that goes in first. SBA helps them when we do these physical disasters. In order to be a disaster loan eligible disaster, it's kind of confusing, but the SBA administrator has to declare a disaster when the governor of the state requests a disaster declaration. So for the coronavirus, it has been a little bit different. We did go through all those iterations where the governor of the state had to request a disaster declaration from the administrator. This went through a little bit of a painful registration curve. So, but ultimately, all 50 states and all territories have been declared a disaster for eligibility for the coronavirus. So what's happened is, as a result of that, it's been determined to be an economic injury disaster, not a physical disaster. So FEMA really is not driving the bus right now. It is SBA. So it's called an economic injury disaster, EIDL, economic injury disaster loan. I'm sorry, it has the unfortunate abbreviation of EIDL, the EIDL loan. And what it is that it's something where the small business who has been adversely impacted by the disaster, that's the only eligibility that's needed, applies directly to the SBA via our website at sba.gov/disaster. And then they go through that process of applying online, getting their application submitted, and then getting contacted by the SBA. A disaster loan representative calls a small business, goes through a verbal eligibility interview, and then the decision is made, the loan decision is made by the disaster loan representative. It's processed at the disaster loan center, and then the disaster loan center will fund it directly into the small business checking account. We have been encouraging all small businesses here in the country, if they've been adversely impacted, and really, to be honest, that's got to be 98% of the businesses, the small businesses here in America. We've been encouraging them to call our disaster loan center, or primarily to first apply online at sba.gov/disaster. And then if they have any issues, they want to know where their application is in the process, to call the disaster loan center directly. As you can imagine, we have been impacted by the sheer volume of the requests. We had a couple other application platforms on our website that unfortunately were not able to handle the volume. As a result, anybody that applied before Monday morning, March 31st, was asked to reapply again. So we lost all that data that we had, and it was March 31st. They were asked to reapply again. So everyone who goes on to the website and applies has to give their email address. So emails were sent out to all these applicants and asking them to reapply. So I am very sorry to those of you on the call that perhaps were part of this experience. I apologize on behalf of the SBA. We have just not been able to keep up with the volume. I had heard anecdotally that there were probably 300,000 applications on file as of the end of last weekend. And that wouldn't surprise me, because think about it. Think about the sheer numbers of small businesses that need assistance right now. And we want to provide that to them. So I just am counseling everyone to please have patience. We have been overwhelmed at the district office with phone calls from small businesses that have applied, and they're really not sure where they're at in the process. And we certainly understand their dilemma. But unfortunately, the district office doesn't have access to the database. So we're not able to go in and look and see. I'm hoping that's going to change, but every day is a little bit different. Every day we're trying to figure out how we can make the process better for those borrowers. So what is a disaster loan? What can you use it for? A disaster loan primarily is for working capital. So whatever the small business needs, we want to help them. The disaster loan application looks a little strange because there's nowhere on it that you actually put a dollar amount that you're applying for. What happens is we have a very streamlined application process now. I've walked through it with a few borrowers, so I can tell you it's very user friendly. But you're basically going in and saying, hey, this is my gross revenues from last year. This is my cost of goods sold, if that's even applicable to your type of business. And this is how many employees I have. So what'll happen is that the Disaster Loan Center will look at that, and they will try to advance to the small business as soon as possible before the loan is even completed. They will try to give an advance to the small business of $1,000 for every employee that the small business has, up to $10,000. That's supposed to be coming out before the actual application process, the phone call from the disaster loan representative. So we are trying to get some money to the borrowers as soon as we can. This advance does not need to be paid back, even if the loan ultimately is withdrawn or is declined. So it's kind of nice to know that's something that the person can do. And even if they don't get the loan, maybe they will get some cash in their hands to help. So what will happen is, so there's no loan amount that's actually put on the application form. What will happen is the disaster loan representative will call, and they basically are looking at what is the gross margin for that company. So you take the gross receipts and then you minus out your cost of goods sold. That leaves a gross margin amount. This is the gross margin for 12 months of operation, because we're trying to go year by year. And then the loan amount will be determined to be 6 months worth of that. So they'll take that annual gross margin, they'll divide it by half. That's the rough amount of what the loan is going to be. The loan is going to be dispersed all at once into the customer's business banking account. And then what will happen is that the loan, the interest rate is fixed at 3.75, and then the loan term will either be 15 or 30 years, 15 or 30. That will be determined based on the interview with the disaster loan representative. And then it will be termed out for that. And then the business owner can elect to pay that off faster. They can elect to term it out for the whole thing. If there will be collateral required, and there will be a personal guarantee required for any principal of the business. So it's kind of a hybrid loan in between our traditional 7A loan and the new Paycheck Protection Program 7A loan that I'm going to talk about next. But that's basically how a disaster loan looks. We do have another product called Paycheck Protection, which is a loan that is has more favorable repayment to the business. And that is a loan that is not directly granted by the SBA. We are relying upon our lender community, our lending partners, to help us with this, because we feel that the demand is going to be very strong. And they have been such great partners with us to help deliver our traditional loans, that we're relying on them to give us the help so that it can be better administered or better distributed to our small business community. So what we're asking is, this is a lender who has been given, we call it PPP, for Paycheck Protection Program. That was a direct product as a result of the CARES Act passage that was done a week ago Friday. So it'll be 2 weeks this coming Friday. The CARES Act was passed. And so part of that legislation is the Paycheck Protection Program that is administered by the Department of Treasury and the SBA, Small Business Administration. So what we've done is we've created this loan program, or we're in the process of creating this loan program, and we've asked our lenders to please distribute that out to the small business owners. And that started on April 3rd, Friday, April 3rd. Our lenders were able to start taking applications from small businesses. We're asking independent contractors and sole proprietorships not to apply for this until April 10th. So our small businesses that are comprised of independent contractors, which are the 1099 wage earners, and the sole proprietors, they will be able to apply on April 10th. So as you can imagine, and so this program, how it differs from our regular disaster loan is this program is specifically for 8 weeks worth of payroll. That's what the loan amount is going to be. 8 weeks worth of payroll plus 25% of the loan can be for rent payments. Pardon me, I'm going to cough for just a second. I just got something caught in my throat there. Hang on, I'll be right back. Thank you. Sorry about that. So the payroll protection is exactly how it sounds. It's to protect 2 months or 8 weeks worth of payroll for the employees. Also, you can have 25% of the loan to help the small business with rent payments or interest payments on mortgage or utilities. So it kind of is a hybrid, but the majority of the loan, at least 75% of it, must be for payroll and payroll only. The nice part about this loan is the interest rate is fixed at 1%, and it's a 2-year term. But once the payroll has been dispersed, so there's a 60-day disbursement window once the loan is funded, so that it allows to pay, of course, 60 days, 2 months, or 8 weeks worth of payroll. Once that period is over, the small business can provide documentation to the lender, documenting that that money was spent at least 75% for payroll, and the other 25% would be documented. Was it spent for rent or interest on mortgage payments or utilities? Once that documentation is presented to the lender will be able to move through a process with the SBA to forgive that loan amount, which means forgiveness. People refer to it as a grant. We don't like to use the word grant in SBA because they really are, we like to say these are all loans, but it's forgiven. So the borrower does not need to repay that loan. And that's one of the nicer, that's why it's more favorable than the disaster loan. The disaster loan, the economic injury disaster loan, the EIDL, must be repaid. But the Paycheck Protection Program loan, the PPP, can be forgiven, does not need to be repaid, as long as the small business can provide the documentation to the lender that, yes, during that 8 weeks and that money you fronted me, that money you gave me, I did spend it on eligible uses, payroll, and 25% or less on rent, mortgage interest, or utilities. So at the end of the 8-week period or the 60 days, if the business is not able to provide the correct documentation, or perhaps something occurred that prevented the business from using all of it for payroll, then whatever that amount is that cannot be documented as eligible, that's going to be termed out over the remaining term of the loan. Originally, the loan term is going to be 2 years. So whatever is remaining at the term, once it's determined that some of the money that was spent cannot be forgiven, then it will just be amortized or interest only. It really is up to the lender, but the borrower still has the remaining term of 24 months to pay that back. There was something else I was going to say. Oh, for the first 6 months of the 2-year term of the Paycheck Protection Program loan, that's going to be interest only, and the interest is not even due until the end of the 6 months. So the borrower has no payments to make on this Paycheck Protection loan for the first 6 months. And then after that, hopefully they can provide the documentation and the loan will be forgiven so that no payments are going to be made at all. And I should have clarified, on the disaster loan, there are no payments for the first 12 months of the disaster loan, because we understand that the business may not be up and running to the point where it can start making those payments. Hopefully that makes sense.
And Cathy, if I can interrupt, I have a few questions that came in on Facebook. The first one, Becky, if you're listening, this is your question. It says, so if you applied online for the disaster loan assistance last Friday, do they need to resubmit their application?
No, my understanding is you do not need to resubmit your application, but I would encourage you to call the Disaster Loan Center and just make sure that, just check the status of the application.
Okay.
We have an 800 number. I brought that up. I'd like to give you that 800 number. I'm going to tilt my screen down though to look at it.
Yeah, sure.
It's one. Okay, thank you. It's 1-800-659-2955. So 659-2955.
All right, and let me just send that over to her. And another question about the Paycheck Protection Program. I had a question come in about nonprofits and their eligibility. Are C6 nonprofits eligible for that program?
We've been told nonprofits are eligible. However, they have to be 501c3 and then or a veterans group. And I think there's also a 501c19 that's eligible.
Okay, thank you.
If they don't fall into this bracket, at this time they're not eligible, but it's conceivable that more nonprofits might be added at a later date.
Okay. Okay. The next question I had is coming from April on Facebook, and she's saying she's part of a small construction business with only 2 employees, both of which are owners. They aren't necessarily interested or wanting to take out a loan, but they're interested in other opportunities to support their missing paychecks. Do they have any options through the SBA besides pursuing unemployment benefits?
Well, yeah, I would recommend that they check into the Paycheck Protection program, because owners can still get paid. So I'm wondering if you're not a W-2 wage earners, yeah, I don't know if that's what. Can you tell me what exactly the business is? Is it a sole proprietor or an LLC? That type of thing?
If you're on Facebook Live, are you able to clarify the type of organization? They are not.
Okay, so I would recommend they still look at the Paycheck Protection Program and they talk with a lender. If they are not a W-2 wage earner, then they would probably have to wait until April 10th to apply. But I would definitely pursue that with a lender to see if they're eligible.
Okay. And let's see, another one. This is about the EIDL loan or program. So Amy, this is your question on Facebook Live, and she says, we don't have employees. We are both owners. So I believe our application that we stated, they stated they had 0 employees. Does that mean they are not eligible for the advance?
No, they should have stayed. Well, the true number is 2 employees, because you can count yourselves. Each one is an employee of the company. So when the disaster loan representative calls you, at that point, you can clarify that. You can probably get the advance then.
Okay, perfect. And that is all, I believe those are all the questions we have so far.
Wonderful. Okay, good. So I did want to say that there has been, regarding the Paycheck Protection Program, you know, when that got approved, there was a cap on how much money could be spent with those. And the cap was $349 billion. That's billion with a B like boy. And there was a perception out in the public that people had to really run and get those because we were going to run out of money. $349 billion. They felt that they needed, oops, Logan, I lost you. Did you lose my visual?
I still have you. I can hear you as well.
Okay, great. Okay, for some reason it's just showing my calendar invite. So there was a perception out in the public that they better hurry up and get those loans because we were going to run out of money. And I want to reassure the people out there that currently, the last I heard, we had already committed $50 billion to borrowers in the Paycheck Protection Program. And we don't, while we think that the money, we will get to the limit, we certainly don't think it's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 days. But we've already been assured that there is talk in Congress of looking at allocating more funding should our funding run out. So I just want to reassure people out there that it's not going to be a fire drill. You can take your time and talk to some lenders. If you approach your bank or your credit union where you have a business relationship and they tell you that they're not currently offering the Paycheck Protection Program, I don't want you to panic. I think more lenders will come into this arena as they help their current clients and they get over that hump. And then they're going to open up to help non-customers of their institution. So I just want to reassure you, I think that there's going to be opportunity out there. Don't panic if you're talking to your bank or a credit union and they're saying we're not going to offer those loans. There's lots and lots and lots of lenders out there that are offering them. And as soon as they can kind of get through their customer demand, their existing customer demand, they will be opening that up for non-customers and there will be money available. So I think that some people have this feeling that there's a panic out there. I want to reassure you, we're going to do our best not to leave anybody behind.
And I had, we have some more questions, so
Great.
perfect. This is Amy, we had a question from her previously. How many days after they apply for the loan should they expect a call?
The disaster loan, well, for the disaster loan, I'm thinking it's going to take longer than we had originally hoped. So I personally, if I were an applicant, I would probably give that phone number a call to make sure about a week after I applied, I would probably call the loan center and say, okay, I just want to make sure you have my application and that it's in the center and you don't have any issues with it. You know, we're just waiting to get through the process. And then if I didn't hear anything about a week after that, I would probably call again and just say, okay, can you give me some indication about when I could be expected to be called? That's really the best advice I can give you at this time because they're trying to work through their demand. So I would just probably try to check in with them once a week or so and just see how things are going.
Okay, perfect. Another question is from Amy on Facebook. She said that she applied for the PPP and the EIDL, as well as another grant. She hasn't heard anything back regarding the EIDL or the Washington State grant, or hasn't even received a confirmation email. Is that kind of the same answer? Should she just kind of check in with them about every week or so?
Well, the Washington State grant, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about that one. So I can't speak to that. But definitely, so the PPP though, I'm wondering, so I would be working closely with your lender on the PPP. The issue with the PPP is that we here at the SBA are trying to roll that loan product out pretty quickly. And we are sacrificing a little bit of quality because of the speed at which we need to get money out to Main Street. So what's happening is that we're working with our lenders as closely as we can. But right now we're getting some real good guidance out to the lenders regarding how do you originate the loan, which means what does the application look like and what does your paperwork look like, Mr. Lender? And then how can you get the borrower's application and your paperwork into the SBA and get those monies reserved out of the $349 billion. We want to get those monies set aside for, the specific small business that you're working with. Once those monies are set aside, it takes a little bit of the pressure off, again, because of that feeling that the money's going to run out. But then it allows the lender then to go on to their next borrower, because what's happening is there's been such a demand to our banking partners that they have 100, 200, 300 applications. So they're trying to do step one first for all of their applications. That's get it into the system and get the money reserved. And then after that, they're going to go back and start documenting the loan and then getting the money actually out to the small business owner. So the small business owner will come in, they will sign some loan documents, and then they, at that point, have the money accessible to them. We're really not yet at that step. So for the PPP loan, Amy, that you've applied for, I would say just keep in contact with your lender and they will get you to the next step as soon as they can. And then on the EIDL loan, yes, please, I would say once a week I would call in, and if it were my loan request, I probably would pick Sunday morning or some off time to try to call in and see the status of my loan.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
No, it does. It sounds like communication is the biggest thing. Just, keep on them.
Yeah, communication and patience.
Right.
Those two things, yes.
During a pandemic.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
Looks like we had another one. Elizabeth is wondering, in terms of lenders or financial institutions that people can approach, is there a list somewhere where they can just find all of the lenders in one place?
Yes, we're definitely advising our small business applicants to first contact the bank or the credit union where you have your business relationship. So if you have a business checking account, or even better, a business loan, we're advising you to first contact your lending or your business banking relationship. If you find, because these loans are all going to be the same. It's like going to the post office and buying a stamp. It doesn't really matter what lender you get it from. It's going to be the same pricing, the same process, the same procedure, the same wait times. So lots of lenders right now have said they are not going to help people that are not their current customers. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, they have a huge backlog of their own customers that have put in their applications and they need to be helped. So they're trying to be loyal to the people that they're already their customers. And I certainly support and understand that. Number two, it could be a small community lender that doesn't have a lot of excess funds to make these loans. So they have a limited amount of money they can loan. And so they're going to have to pick and choose and put it where it's best served. And I certainly understand that as well. Or three, they could be a lender that is kind of not happy with the guidance that they're getting from the SBA, because I have to admit, it's a little spotty. And if you've never done SBA lending before and you're relying on some nice clear-cut guidelines, we are working on those, but we don't have those yet for our lending partners. So they've kind of sat back and said, you know what, we're going to wait till the SBA gets its act together and we have a strong, solid product and guidance about that product, and then we're going to jump in. And I get that too. I totally understand, especially for those lenders that are inexperienced with SBA lending. They don't want to make a mistake on this PPP loan product. And so they're kind of waiting to get better guidance.
Okay.
I support that. So those are the three issues that the small business borrower has. It's like, what if my bank doesn't do it? What if my bank doesn't have enough money, or what is starting to get a little nervous about it, or what? So there are lenders out there that are willing to help where you don't have a business banking relationship, and we are aware of them, but we don't want to come out as saying this is what we support. We're not able as SBA to say we recommend these banks or we don't recommend these banks. We can't say that, or these credit unions. So what we're encouraging people to do is go to the website of any lender that you're thinking of. So if it's US Bank, which is our number one banking partner, that's historically they've made more SBA loans than any other bank here in the District of Seattle. Or if it's a large regional bank that's done a lot of loans, for example, Banner Bank, or if it's a huge national bank like Wells Fargo Bank, go to those. First of all, check your own lender or your own business banking relationship. Secondly, you can just hop on websites of banks and credit unions and see who's doing them. And thirdly, we do have a list of participating lenders on our website at the SBA, and it's at sba.gov/WA for Washington, sba.gov/WA. And we do have right on our face page a list of participating lenders for the PPP. Okay. Hopefully that'll help.
Yeah, no, perfect. Penny is wondering on Facebook, for businesses that are closed currently, are they still able to apply to the PPP? And if so, can they use that once they open back up?
Yes, you are able to apply for the PPP, and you can even use it now before you open back up to pay your employees that have been laid off.
Okay, excellent. The other one, the loan at the beginning, when you first started talking, there was a loan that offered a $10,000 advance. That was that the EIDL loan?
That's correct. That's the EIDL loan, and it will offer an advance of $1,000 per employee.
Okay.
So if you get on, if you get on and you apply online directly with the Disaster Loan Center, it'll ask you how many employees you have. And then later on, it'll ask you if you would want to get that advance now. And you would mark a box. And then that money should come ahead of the time before you are contacted by a disaster loan representative.
Okay, perfect. And then for those of you on Facebook Live wondering about the grants, it looks like TriDeck just responded. It looks like they're overwhelmed with some applications that they're trying to catch up as fast as they can. So, of course, patience and communication. And I think that's all the questions we have. Cathy, if you have any other information to share.
Well, I would just like to reach out and just say, we do feel your pain. I'm sorry that we're not right there doing it correctly the first time in a quick manner. You know, we are here to support small businesses, and we'll do whatever we can to help you. We are, you know, I'm sure as everyone else is, we're putting in a lot of long hours. We're working weekends, we're working nights to do whatever we can to get this process a little smoother. So just hang in there. You know, help is coming. I'm sorry, you just have to wait.
It's definitely an interesting time.
Yes, it is.
All right, and if there are no additional questions, just to let everyone know, this recording will be put up on the Chamber's Facebook page, so feel free to share it for those who aren't able to watch live. And of course, visit the SBA website. There's a ton of information on there, and of course, it's the very top, probably the top half or top third of the page that you can click on that'll take you to the funding options and resources. Just another reminder, Cathy kind of touched on the additional steps that Congress might be taking. So definitely reach out to me via email if you have any questions for Congressman Newhouse. Again, we'll have him here on Friday at 11 o'clock. So it'll be a great opportunity to hear what they're working on at the federal level. And with that, I just want to say thank you to Cathy for taking all of our questions and covering everything.
Well, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
All right, no problem at all. Have a good day, everyone.